So Maddox, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Good day, it's good to be here, always.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. So, you're born and raised in Athens, right? I want to start with the rabbit eye tales.
Okay.
I know there's some history over there, so yeah, walk us through it.
Well, that was a time when uh, there was not much in Athens entertainment. And back during the 50s and the 60s, black people had their own kind of entertainment. We had clubs and joints and gathering places.
Juke joint.
And my grandfather lived out in Oconee Heights. And that was a part of Clark County, but it had almost its own culture. And he lived out there, and we lived high up on the hill, and down below lived Mr. Lumpkin, Mr. Minor Lumpkin, and they had a club down there. And again, I don't know where the name Rabbit Eye came from. If you just think about the eye of a rabbit, it opens and closes and all of that. And so out there, we had a club, and I was not allowed to go there, but that's where all the adults went. They would drive out there, and that was a place, not a reveille and thing, just a place to go and have fun. And of course, it was always on the weekends. It was on Friday and Saturday night. So that was a place for people in Athens, black folk, to go and not have any harassment, get together and just enjoy having accomplished a good week of work, or just celebrate anything that's really going on in their lives. We didn't have venues for that, and so people just came up with different venues of their own. As Lamar say, sometimes they were called juke joints, but sometimes they had their own name.
Right. Let me ask you this. So you grew up in that side of town, Rabbit Eye. I want you to tell me what kind of some of the other people that came out of Rabbit Eye with you.
Well, again, out of Rabbit Eye, as I said, Mr. Minor Lumpkin came there, but it was a country environment. It was a crop environment. And there was a church down the street there that was St. James Baptist Church. It's still there, matter of fact.
Yeah, I remember, I've been to this thing.
And they still have active service there. And that was the community church. And my family lived out there, and the Dyses lived out there.
Yeah.
The Baileys, and they just lived together in a community where everybody. Some people were farmers. Some people worked in town. Some people were homemakers. Some people did this and that. But they all came together and kind of supplemented each other for what the others didn't have. And it was kind of a barter system, but it kept everybody, humble and friendly, because you didn't know who you were going to have to go borrow a cup of sugar from or some flour from. And everybody kind of got along, and everybody shared. There was family, togetherness and all of that kind of thing. There was not the drug problem or the crime problem and all of that. One thing you grew up, if you grew up in the South and you were black, you grew up fearing jail.
Right.
You didn't have the mama and daddy didn't have to put the fear that in. It was just there. And that was the one thing that drove a culture that we lived in to keep us out of crime. So our parents did a wonderful job. Our teachers did a great job. But, that outside punishment, outside that fear that we lived in, it added a lot to our behavioral issues.
Right. The times were crazy. So you're coming up in Athens, and I kind of want to talk about the early days. Like, where'd you go to school?
I went to West Broad Elementary School that they're still fighting over.
Yeah.
No, let me go back. I went to Miss Mattie Everhart. She had a kindergarten, and that was up on Chase Street. And we used to walk through the little path from Glen Haven to Billups and up through there to Chase Street. It wasn't a log cabin, but it was made like a log cabin, and she had kindergarten there. And then after that, you kind of graduated, and you went down to Miss Alice Wimley. She had a kind of advanced kindergarten where you went before you would go to school.
Right.
And it was down there on the corner of Pope and Church, I believe it is. But she had a school, so you got to go to, two different school before you got ready to go to high school. Now, it wasn't a pre-K where the government paid. I don't know how my mom and dad them paid, but they, the people that ran them were very professional, and they taught us a lot.
Right.
Okay. After that, when you finish Miss Wimbledon, basically, you go to West Broad. West Broad. Yeah. West Broad.
I was just saying
now.
Right. It's still a controversial place even back then.
Yeah. Well, people don't know that before it was West Broad School, it was a TB hospital.
Tuberculosis. Yeah.
Yeah,
Tuberculosis.
that's what it was there, a sanitarium, TB sanitarium. And then when they moved that out after the war and the army left there, and then they turned it into a school, and that's when it became West Broad School. Right. But it's built on Minor Street with the sides on Broad Street. Now, I've been told, can't prove it, that it was built like that with the side on Broad Street and the front on Minor Street because they didn't want to have a black school facing the major highway. But right across the street from there is Broad Acres Public Housing, which, was there being
in the street.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, sometimes you hear fiction, sometimes you hear facts. So,
right. And they're still fighting over it. Have you heard anything new about the West Broad Elementary School?
Not that. Everybody got an idea about it.
Right.
Everybody got an idea, and it just sits there day after day, deteriorating. After a while, it's not going to be anything to fight over.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It seems like that's all we're doing these days is a lot of fighting and not really solution based.
Right. And see, I went to elementary school there, and it went to the 5th grade. Okay, 6th and 7th grade, they built that addition on to West Broad, and you went to the 6th and 7th grade there. Prior to that, you would go out to what is now, it was Lyons Elementary out there by the quarry.
Yep.
And, we would go there until they finished the school. But when you finished the 6th and 7th grade, you would go to the high school in the 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
You would go to the high school in 8th grade. They gave it a name, sub-freshman.
Oh, okay.
You're in 8th grade, but you were up there with all the other kids.
Right.
And, I continued on through that until I graduated in 1964.
Wow.
So,
from Athens
High Industrial.
Right.
We were the last class of Athens High Industrial School.
Right.
We just got in a big controversy, and, as the awareness of things were coming, we wanted to get rid of that Athens Industrial. So we got the Board of Education to change it to Bernie Harris in honor of 2 of our former educators, our former principal, Dr. Harris and Miss Annie Burney. So that's how that name came about.
Sure.
Okay.
And fun fact, the way how really Charlie brought it to me, Highlight. You guys had the high school newspaper called Highlight, and that was something that when you were kind of giving me ideas for the magazine, it's like, call it Highlight.
Yeah. We had, I don't know how often that came out, maybe once a month, but we printed a newspaper, and it was called Highlight in high school. We printed, and it had information in there. It had like how many people went to the PTA meeting.
Right, yeah.
What this teacher was done, or what these students had done. It was a highlight of activities from Athens High Industrial School. So that was one of our media. You have all these things now.
Social media.
Yeah, social media thing. Well, we had a social media, but it was called our Highlights.
Right.
And it let everybody know what was going on, even though most of the time we knew. And some of the things they couldn't put in there.
Yeah. I've seen some of the raw scans, and I've actually over at what's the name of the funeral home? Shane Blackwell. What's Mac and Payne.
Mac and Payne, yeah.
He on his wall, as soon as you walk in, he has the actual print of Highlight magazine up there. Yeah, and every time I come in, he's like, "Don't forget to look." So, you graduated in 1964, you said, right?
Yeah.
So now you're in the free world basically, and you're getting your career started. Tell me what that's like.
Well, I decided I was gonna go to Savannah State and play football. Coach Olson got me scholarship unseen. I went down there and I had a medical condition that I knew about, and I had to come back and have a hernia repair.
Oh wow.
And after that, it's like, no, I'm not going back down there. So in that winter quarter, I started at the University of Georgia, and it was very unusual. We had about 9, 10, 12 black folks in the whole university system.
Wow.
And I started there, and I met friends that would come in from all kind of places because I was one of the friends for a lot of the people there, the boys and girls, because I lived in Athens.
Yeah.
And the campus was not necessarily a friendly place from them. So sometimes we could retreat to my place or some of the places, as we talked about earlier, to some of the joints to go to that, everybody felt safe at. So I was kind of one of the liaisons between,
that crowd,
our black crowd that's coming in and myself. There are so many more black students there to relate to.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. Okay.
Very few times we had somebody in a class with us. Very few times we had somebody that had taken this class and we could go to them.
Right.
So there are opportunities there, and you may not see but 4 or 5 of them, and they sticking together, but it's 4 or 5 of them.
Right.
So it is, it hadn't increased as it should, but there's a little more camaraderie among them, even though they may be off in their little niche, about 4 or 5 people, but that's better than it was.
So you were able to basically go around campus, it seems like you had access.
Yeah.
Tell me some of the things that you got access to while you were at, just on campus.
Well, we had, I think the most infamous thing we had, they had the Bulldog Room, and it was a lunch. You had a lunch thing, and that was kind of a headquarters we'd meet in. And one day we met over there, and for some reason, they were not going to serve us or something. And a good friend of mine named Leonard Laughter, he had transferred in from Fort Valley, and he was just he was the epitome of somebody you needed in that. I mean, you talking about radical. He made all those other people look like little children. But we had a big fight there, and that was, kind of quell. They had a dean of men, and he kind of handled that and kept everybody in check.
Right.
We had a couple of protests out there where when Vince Dooley didn't have black athletes and everybody else did, so we go over to the stadium and have a protest, saying so-and-so got black athletes, why don't we?
Right.
So it just went on, and
but moments like that is like you and your peers, y'all kind of see where they're lacking at. And it's like, hey, having black athletes isn't a bad thing.
Well, in that time, it was considered, black athletes can compete with white folks.
Oh wow, that's
that was the thing, and because nobody had ever done it, and whether they could compete or not, it was a taboo.
Right.
Just didn't do that. Georgia Tech played, I think, Southern Cal or somewhere, and they got all kind of backlash from their folks. Were playing a team that had black player on it. And we even had one time when Georgia was going to play Georgia Tech, and they had a black quarterback named Eddie Machans. And it was all kind of controversy because he did not come and play. A guy from Houston, Paul, I can't remember his name, he was the first black player to play there in Sanford Stadium.
Let's go back, because I do want to get on politics. So it's back 65, 66. What is your political engagement like? I know you said you did the protests.
Yeah, at that time, there was a lot of, upheaval going on throughout the country. I remember the day that Dr. King got killed. I was coming across Lumpkin Street, and a friend of mine, Joe Sales from Columbus, Georgia. I think he was mayor of Selma at one time here in the last 5 or 10 years. But he was coming across the street and say, they got him today. They got Dr. King today. And and I went on to class, and nobody else seemed to, it didn't praise anybody. So, we went through that. We actually got together, and several of us went to the funeral in Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
And, the procession, we wasn't in the procession, but we were there.
So I want to dig into little bit of the entertainment history in Athens, because like Athens is known for REM, but I'm pretty sure like you coming up, you've seen a couple of other faces out here.
Back now, REM day, I can tell you that. See, back in the day, we used to have famous.
Yeah.
We had James Brown, we had Ray Charles, we had all kind of people that come to Athens, for entertainment.
Right.
I don't mean, at the university. I'm talking about in our. I remember a good friend of mine, Max, who and I, B.B. King came here.
Oh wow.
And he played at the Georgia Theater, but when he got through, we carried him over to a local friend of our house, and we had drinks.
Wow.
I mean, we met him.
Oh.
Yeah. And I remember when James Brown came here. James Brown came singing, during the Black Power movement, and they had it at the Coliseum, sponsored by the University of Georgia.
Wow.
And we had
Get back to those moments at UGA.
yeah, we had Ray Charles come over there. I mean, we had all kind of outstanding entertainment, and it was for homecoming.
Wow.
And they could get people in here that nobody else could. I remember Ray Charles came, and they were saying it's getting late now. That the dorm mother's gonna be there. He said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of the dorm mother." And he kept on. We had all kinds of entertainers to come in.
Right.
But in the local community, we had famous people to come in here too.
Right.
And some of these joints that we had, that they came
Make
to
it
go.
rock.
Yeah.
No, it's good to know, man. I feel like, we just don't have it. We have it today, but it's so insulated.
Yeah.
Very insulated.
And we had several groups of guys mostly that formed bands like the Grains of Sand, and Dr. Walter Allen had one called the Rhythm Ramblers. They had a big bus, a bread truck they made it into, and they go around and play all over Northeast Georgia.
Right.
And Dr. Allen kind of hit that. Bennett Johnson was in it. Charles Turner, Charles Shaw used to drink, and all those kinds. And they had that, but then they had after that a group called the Grains of Sand. Jimmy Hill and some of those, Little Max Stroud, they were in that.
Right.
So, that was some of the local talent that we had.
Right. It's definitely something that I'm looking at now is just, what is the new, or what's the new environment like? Because you're on the Classic Center board. Tell us a little bit about that and kind of how you got involved with the Classic Center, how long, because I'm pretty sure you saw Paul and them kind of start that up from the ground up. So.
Well, as I grew up, I kept looking at how things were. And I noticed how we would protest and things might change and they might. Then the light just went on. If you want to change things, you got to get on the inside.
Yeah.
You got to get up there where they're making decisions. You can fly in and beat your head against the wall, but if you get in there, you can make some decisions.
Right.
And so I started pursuing that avenue that, I wanted to build a board of directors or something. I mean, even if it was the nightlife of Miami, get on the board of directors, and then you can
implement it.
Yeah, you can have a voice. You still may be one or two people, but you got a voice. And so I saw that early in my life, and I said, okay, let me do that. And from that time on, I sought to be an influencer on boards of directors that I could
make a change.
Yeah, and I've served on many boards here in Athens. And my thing was, okay, sometimes the folks serving on the board, they have no idea.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying, they're good people, but they have no idea, what's going on or what's needed or any of this outside their sphere. So it brought a new thing to that.
Right.
And I used to have to always remind people now, I don't represent all the black folks there. Yeah. It's supposed to think what I think now. So don't just think there's a monolithic thing that I'm here speaking for all black folks.
Right.
I'm just giving you a glimpse of how other people live and think and why they do these things. Reverend Hudson, he was the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church. Okay, not another church in this town would touch the NAACP. But him. He came out and he was a strong leader of it and a strong proponent of it. And that was where we always met when we got ready to go downtown to protest or somewhere. And one of the things that sticks out, and a lot of people mind, they ask me about, we were marching on one side of Broad Street where the varsity used to be, and on the other side of the varsity, the Ku Klux Klan was marching.
Oh wow.
But we never, nobody bothered anybody, nobody there. And I always just kind of laugh because nobody really knew. I had my dad down the road with my back. I wasn't really afraid. But one time we got arrested, and 70, 80% of the people got arrested were football players.
Oh wow.
So our athletic director, Dr. Doc Holmes, came and got us out. And don't y'all be doing that. He said, keep up the good work. And that was kind of doing that civil rights. We sat in down at
Ready to risk it.
Yeah, we sit down at the movies, and we sit down at Cress's and Woolworths and all those kind of things. And I told Dr. Hudson, Reverend Hudson, I said, no, I need to stay here because somebody spit on me. We're gonna go get it. And and he had 2 or 3 other people like that say, now if you can't take it, don't go.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had several people say, I can take it or I can't take it and don't go. But there were several places downtown that we marched, and it was never really a whole lot of violence here in Athens.
Hope y'all hearing that, because contrary to belief, they feel like Athens is way worse than like in Atlanta or any other part of the South.
Yeah.
And it's like Athens really isn't.
No, Athens we had a couple of people, and one person that this doesn't get his due is Wilbur Jones. Wilbur Jones was an Athenian. He was a visionary. I mean, if you looked at Wilbur, you thought he was white, but he wasn't.
Right.
But Wilbur could move in circles. He had the mayors here. He had governors here. I mean, he even had the senators here.
Right.
And he was one of the movers and shakers here that got us things going. One of the projects that they brought here in Frank Maddox was Bethel Homes.
Oh, wow.
They got with Doug Bernard, who was our congressman then, and they worked out the place so that we could build that. And that was back, that was upscale housing.
Because
that was big
back then in Rapid Eye, the roads are dirt.
Yeah.
Roads. You don't have, no, you don't even have, what I remember you told me this.
Yeah.
What is it? Running water?
No. All of that. None of that was out there because, again, it was out in Oconee Heights, and nobody out there had it. I mean, nobody, black or white, they had it. But when Wilbur Jones, he could see things. He formed Action Incorporated for years and years around Northeast Georgia. It's covered 10 counties, and Wilbur Jones was the only person that could get along with 10 white county commissioners. Wow. Could bring something like that together.
To Athens.
And he was just, ultimate that way. He was like that.
Right.
And Wilbur, he had his faults. He drank. We'd go down to Wade's Cafe, and he ordered a pig sandwich and a Budweiser. The two, and then both of them gone. He said, let's go. And we had a company, Ace Cab Company, all black owned company.
Yeah.
Ace Cab Company. And they had 1963 Fords, I believe they were. And it did not pan out well. There's a lot of things that didn't go right in that. So that was one of the big failures of some of the things that were coming out of that. But
I mean, you in order to win big, you gotta fail big too.
Because that was a main mode of transportation in this town. We didn't have buses. We had buses at one time, and when all the stuff about busing and they did away with them. Yeah. Okay, so you didn't have.
You had to walk around.
Yeah, you had to walk or you had to ride, and a lot of folks didn't have vehicles. So the Leather Express, as my mother used to call it, it's not crowded. So that was one of the things there that you had to get a taxi. And we talk about our taxis. Ken and I, we call them colored cabs.
Oh man,
you get in there, and that person that drives not going until he get 5 or 6 people in there. Right. If he's on the west side, he's gonna pick up 5 or 6 folks before he go to the east side.
Yeah.
So he made 5 or 6 stops, and that's what we call a colored cab. I know somebody gonna get upset, but that's what we used to call them because it made many stops. And if you wanted a private cab, you just call and they take you from point A to point B. But you couldn't afford that.
They still ride share today.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I'm talking about, yeah. But it was like this particular cab driver, he would pick up folks, and until he got a load, he wouldn't go into the east side. And my stepfather was a taxi driver, so I kind of knew all the ins and outs about that.
Right. So I want to know more about some of the businesses that were here, because we talked about Hot Corner when I had another interview.
Yeah.
And what was your experience being out there, Hot Corner?
But we were talking about that day, Homer Wilson and I down at Wilson Barbershop. And if you were uptown at Cress's and Davidson and Macy's and all these places there, and you had to go to the bathroom, you had to go down the Hot Corner.
Right.
You could not use the bathroom uptown.
Wow.
Even Wilbur Jones, you would have to go down there. And down on the Hot Corner, we had 1, 2, I think 3 funeral homes.
Okay.
And
you had an insurance agent.
Yeah, I had two black insurance agencies, Afro-American and Pilgrim Health and Life. And we had those, and we had the Samaritan Insurance. And that building was the Samaritan building. We had the Morton Theater. We had two doctors' buildings there, right there on the corner. Had a dentist. I mentioned Miss Wemley. Her mother was the first black dentist in this town.
Wow.
And so we had, it was a commerce. And on the other side, you had the barbershop, you had Wade's Cafe, you had a couple other cafes. And they told me before my time on the land where First United Methodist across from Hot Corner, that was a union hall. Where black work would come and work, because like you see people standing out now, but that's where people would come and black workers would get work from. So it was all that Hot Corner down there, all of that was that. Down below there now were 2 grocery stores, big time grocery stores. One was Bell Supermarket that just recently left here, and another one was Big Star.
Or they were black-owned groceries?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, they were major grocery stores.
Right.
Yeah. But they were in that area, and they knew, they got a lot of customers from there.
Right. Well, I definitely am curious about that. I want to lead into more of your political, because you ran for office.
Yeah.
You ran for office. You ran for mayor. What were your main, like, if you remember, just what were you pushing for, campaigning for?
When I ran for mayor, it was kind of an accident.
Right.
I ran for mayor after Doc Eldridge got beat by Hardy Davidson.
Right.
Doc made me promise I would run for mayor. And I said, I don't know about that and that. I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Doc told me it's time to qualify. I said, Doc, let me think about that. And I came back, and it came back to me some of the things that I had been doing on joining boards and that. Right. So my thing was, as I looked around, and at that particular time, I had a career with the Georgia Department of Labor. Right. But I looked around, and that was one of the major problems we had. We didn't have a workforce. We didn't have anybody, in a job. We had the textile industry had just died out, and all these jobs went over. Yeah. And we had people that had worked in sewing plants for like 40 years, and they didn't know anything else. We had people that had worked at the poultry plants, and they didn't know anything else. So, we didn't have any economic drivers, to go and do that. I mean, we had Westinghouse, ABB, we had Reliance and a few of that, and we had UGA, but there were no real economic drive, and nobody was concerned about that. It was what I call the tree hugging time. Everybody was, hooked on green trees, saving that. Nobody understood the economic problems that we had then, and they were coming to fruition even more so as we moved over. So again, I said, well, I don't see anything down there, so I'm going to run for mayor. Right. So I did that.
We feel like some of the lessons learned.
Oh, I just met a lot of folks. I lost in a runoff, and I think it saved my life. I tell many people, to the day, that if I had won that election, I'd probably be dead. I probably would, somebody run me crazy or something. Right. But again, I lost that election, and that kind of launched me really into politics.
Right.
And I got to work, as I said, I worked for the Georgia Department of Labor, and that was
How long did you do that?
34 years. But the Department of Labor is where I learned how to maneuver politically. So when I got ready to run for mayor, I knew how the system worked. So
Right.
I integrated myself into that because on the state level, I had been involved with politics for years.
Right. So I kind of want to fast forward now to some of your recent, you know, political works. We mentioned Brian Kemp. What are some of the things you've been able to work on with the governor here in Athens?
Well, this is Governor Kemp's hometown. I think one of the biggest thing is that he allowed me to bring to him and the attention that was the Black Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, I remember that.
We were able to go over and have lunch with him, have breakfast with him. He share with him our ideas, and he said, okay, if you do this, this is what we'll do. If you do it, some of the places did it, and he did what he said,
Right.
and he supported that.
Right.
So um, I got appointed to a couple of state board of directors that, I'm on the board of community affairs that handles most of the federal money that comes into Georgia. So that was one that he placed me on, and I said, okay, yeah, because now I see where it is, and I've been able to share with people and how this thing really runs.
Right. What do you feel like some of those? Just give us a couple of tips.
Well, one of those when the pandemic came,
Right.
and everybody, we had the rent moratoriums and all of that, and I was trying to explain to the people in Athens, they were trying to use the money there, where there was a setup through Department of Community Affairs
Yeah.
for eviction money.
Yep, I do remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And there were other things that were set up that just didn't work out here. See, Athens is one of those communities. They get all of their Department of Community Affairs money themselves because it's a city of such a large number. So they get that, and they are the ones that are charged with determining how it's spent. But in the pandemic and all that, there was some monies that came down that Athens could have accessed
Right.
outside their pot of money.
Right. And so yeah, we can go into. I definitely think now is the time to go into budgeting and stuff like that. How have you seen? I mean, even from when Harry was running for office, how have you seen the budget just how it's being used? I mean, yeah, I feel like we can start on a whole tangent about that. So it's like, just give me your overview of the Athens Unified Government.
Well, it's not just the Athens Unified Government. It's the state of Georgia budget. It's the United States budget.
Right.
All that. People, we worry about the wrong thing. We're concerned about these things. You need to be in that process when decisions are being made.
Right.
Because whoever has the loudest noise or the most political power, those items go into the budget. And that's why I'm saying on boards and stuff, right now, I'm on 2 or 3 boards, and our priority is children.
Right.
Helping children. So, you're able to do that. And that's what you learn about being on the inside and doing some of those kind of things.
Right. Because you got to see the needs.
Yeah.
What are the real needs?
Right. And like in Athens, Clarke County, there's very few people that sit on that commission that have ideas how budgets should be.
Right.
They'll get some numbers and they'll just, okay, this sounds good. Well, what does it do?
Right.
And oftentimes they're coming, well, I didn't know it was going to do that. Well, that's your job.
Right.
And, we moved from volunteer commissioners to paid commissioners.
Man. Oh, now that's even, I haven't stepped on that side, but I'm starting to see it.
Yeah. And again, it's just like other politicians that I've seen. Most people, I tell anybody that the number one job of most politicians, what do you think it is? I'm gonna help you out.
Yeah.
Get reelected.
Right. Yeah.
That's the number one job.
Yeah.
You leave here going to Congress, you got a 2-year. The day you get there, you start raising money for the next 2 years. Senators have a little longer because they have 6 years.
Right.
But that's their number one job, is to get reelected. Everybody looking at all the crazy stuff going on in D.C. now and some of those. These people doing things not for the good of this, not to get reelected. And that is an issue in federal government and state government and even in the commission. There's a good reason that the mayor is term limited. The governor is term limited.
Right.
See, the governor can only serve. I remember when the governor could serve but 1 year, one term.
One term.
And
Had to get on.
Yeah, but in the before we call it the mayor, the chief, whatever they called it, they couldn't serve but 2 years, and now that's it. Some of these people, been up in Congress, they in wheelchairs.
Right.
They don't know what time of day it is.
They've been there their whole life.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem. But again, their number one job is to get reelected.
Right.
That's what is crater politics. And not just
It's tragic.
in a democratic society, as I don't know who said this, say
Right.
democracy is a bad form of government, but everything else is so much worse.
Yeah.
So, we just try to
What we got.
Yeah, we just try to make it better by getting good people in. And every now and then you get the right people in there, the people that will step up and speak up and all these boards that I've been on, hey, I'm gonna say it. Y'all may not like it.
Right.
Y'all may not, but this I'm gonna say it. And I've not always been right, but I'm gonna say it.
Right.
Somebody gonna think about something.
Right.
I'm so disappointed in a generation. And my first pastor, Jesse Barnes, said, some of these folks are not lost. We just left them.
Mm.
They don't understand this. It's just like I say, Wilbur Jones was an inspiration to me. He showed me how this thing works. Get on the inside and make charges. The people that we talk to now, how much you pay? I ain't got time for it.
Profit over
All this kind of stuff. Well, it ain't gonna do no good. Yeah, if you get in there, you can. But that's what I'm finding as a problem. And then some of the ones that do get in there, they got ulterior motives. They want to get in there so they can do this and do that, and it still leads to not being productive.
Right.
Say, people have this thing. Well, my vote don't matter. I remember one night when I was campaigning, boy, I was tired. I stopped at McDonald's and got me an ice cream about 11:30.
Mm.
And I said, ma'am, my name's Charlie Maddox. I'm running for mayor. She said, I don't vote. I said, okay, that's why you here at 11:30 and they ain't working there. I said it to her just like that. I was tired. It just rolled out like that.
Yeah.
And I meant it. Because again, when you don't vote, when stuff happens, it just happens.
That's how you end up.
Yeah.
What are your views on Trump and his campaign?
Okay.
I mean, let's zoom back. Democrats versus Republicans.
Okay. People always get me. Somebody told my wife the other day, a good friend of hers, a good friend of mine, about Charlie, he's a Republican. Ain't no damn Republican, ain't no damn Democrat.
Right.
Where I ran for mayor, that was one of the big things. He's not a Democrat. No, because some of y'all idiots. You're not a Republican. No, because some of y'all idiots. The only thing I claim is Christian.
Right.
I'm that. So Christ is it. I don't care what everybody else is.
Yeah.
So, but you're a Republican or a Democrat. You asking, for trouble. If you look at our state legislators now, with Republican control,
Yeah.
Democrats did the same thing when they were in charge.
Right.
So
Their way.
yeah, and so now when we look at national politics, people just gone crazy. They just, and when I say gone crazy, there are people that believe stuff, and they got better sense.
Yeah.
I saw this movie, Hidden Figures. Did you see that movie?
Yep.
At the very end, this white lady told the star, she said, I really don't have anything against you.
Yep.
And what did she say? She said, I really believe you believe that. And see, there are some people out there that really believe that. Some people really believe that Donald Trump is for them. Some people out there believe that Donald Trump is against them.
Right.
Some people believe this. And if you believe it, it's true to you.
Right.
And that's the thing that has come, that people believe things not based on facts, not based on anything, but just their little situation.
Right. And it's funny because it's like, if your situation gets worse, well, do you change your vote next time?
Well, again, if you hear we call it buyer's remorse. There's so many people now coming out. This guy the other day, blacks for Trump, and he was complaining. Like, bro, what did you expect?
Just people signed up for it.
They were talking about all the Arab individuals up in Wisconsin somewhere, how they voted for Trump. The man told you what he's gonna do. There was a guy down in Florida, his wife was getting deported. He's a Trump supporter. What did the man tell you he was gonna do?
Right.
Now, to get back to the reality, Donald Trump is just running a scheme on America, because half of these things he's talking about, he can't do.
Right.
And he knows it.
Right.
So, but if he just get everybody all worked up,
That's his goal.
they talk about the Doge, and everybody got to write down 5 things that they did last week. That what Musk told them.
Right.
Everybody got to write, every government worker, you got to write down 5 things you didn't agree, and now you're gonna get 5. Who in the hell gonna read them?
Right.
We're gonna read all these
These notes.
Come on, y'all. Be for real.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the operation systems getting this done.
Yeah. And what I'm saying, they're just up there to create chaos, and then in chaos, now we're gonna bring in this and this and this. People watching the wrong thing. They got us watching, the 3-hand Molly where you take the pill out, and there's really no pill down there.
Yeah.
We looking for no, that ain't okay.
And we hooked on it.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta find something more productive to do. Let me ask you this, because I feel like we've hit politics like crazy. Business-wise, I mean, you've been around a lot of business owners, and specifically here in Athens. If you were talking to somebody, let's say a younger me when I was back in, first starting the magazine, how would you advise them on getting their business started, and just kind of how they should go about that? Like, what advice would you give young business owners?
I tell business owners whenever they want to go into business, you got to know the finance of it. You can't just know, I'm a good printer, I'm a good this, I'm a good this. You got to know how it works. And you got to be financially able to sustain. And too many times because nobody lends us any money, and we don't have family money, we go in undercapitalized, and that kills anybody. I don't care white, black, green, or what. So that's one of the biggest problems that we have with businesses, that we go in undercapitalized.
Right.
It may be something good, and that. If you notice, like in Atlanta, they have some business that fail, but they have capitalization programs that give them, a certain amount of time, for them to get up running and all that.
Right.
Some of these, as you say, now you got to come out the gate wide open.
Yeah.
If not, you dead on the hook.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of it. And just because you want to do something, are you financially able? And
Right.
and do you have the bank? Do you have the credit score? Do you have the savings? Do you look at all these things? Not just because you're good at it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, how are you gonna be successful at it?
I kind of wanted to hit on the head of some of you mentioned the black chambers earlier. Kind of illustrate, what does those networks kind of do? Like, not even just the black chambers, but the regular chamber. I think you used to be the president of the Rotary Club.
Yeah.
How do all of these different environments, even in your career, how have they helped in you, just, as you say, getting in those rooms, getting in those spaces?
In any business that you're going to, unless you just crazy lucky, you got to have somebody that help you. Right. You got to have, I'm talking about the finance and talk about the plan, you got to have all of that. But somebody got to crack that door, open that door, give you an entrance to it. Somebody did it for almost everybody, and there's nobody, white, black, brown, what, just because they were so good or all of that, it happened. So again, we have to be cognizant of how this thing really works, and that we can present it to anybody. Most people, if you're going into a business, it's got to be a business that helps somebody, that somebody wants.
Right.
You know, it's got to be a business that somebody wants and that they will benefit from being. You can't say, well, I'm going to go into business. They going to come to me because they my cousin, my aunt, and all that kind of stuff.
And we're like,
Now, I had a very infinite experience. I was in an insurance sales once, way back when. And I just thought everybody in my family going to buy insurance or they going to be a slap done. No, bro, that don't happen. And again, the same thing about business. You need to look at what you're talking about going into. You need to look at, how you're going to support yourself, how you capitalize. And then that is something people want. I mean, if you go out there making bucket whip, you got the best plan, all the capitalization you want and all that, nobody going to come and buy bucket whip because there's no call for it.
Right.
And you
I
need
don't
to,
even know what that is.
yeah, that's what they used to whip the horse whip when they drove.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, there's no call for it.
Right.
So you need to go out here and determine, what does this community, who is my customer?
Right.
And
And need based.
yeah, who is this? This is what they need. I ain't talking what they like,
Right.
but what they need. Now, like becomes another whole level of marketing and selling. But you don't go into business because somebody like that.
That's a huge
Now, once you got established, then you can add what somebody like. Because, if I get somebody to just buy something because they like it, they don't like it but once or twice. But if it's something it's needed every day by more than one person. So you have to assess that too.
Right.
And
That's definitely a huge factor.
yeah.
I mean, so many times I've like talked with some of my friends and I'm like, hey, like you're doing this business. Are you doing this business because you've seen everybody else doing it, or are you seeing that there's a need for it? I think you and I had this conversation when I had started up the magazine. Zebra had been here forever. Yeah. They did, decent general coverage of things, but then Athens needed an investigative type of platform that actually had, some political talk. And I think, if I didn't make that decision, if I was just like, oh, I want to make this to be what I wanted to be and force it on people, I wouldn't be where I'm at,
Well, see, in any business, I mean, especially in Athens with such a large university population.
Right.
You got to think about you got 40,000 plus consumers over there. Mm-hmm. Okay. You don't have to get all 40,000. You don't have to get half of them. You don't have to get a fourth of them. You just need to get enough to make your business successful.
Right.
And when you don't have that market, that's when you're really going down the trail.
Right.
Good friend of mine, he has Chick-fil-A, and he's a great guy, and he has a Chick-fil-A downtown, right at the arch. That's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You couldn't answer that, but that's not where he started out at. Right. But that's where he was able to go. God said, opportunity to knock, but you got to be ready. Yeah. And whoever you are in whatever business, and quit. We got to quit because I'm black, because I'm old, because I'm this and that. Yeah, that may be part of it, but you're going to stay black. Yep. You're going to stay that. Yep. So, okay, how do you overcome that? Right. And we've got to do that. There are some great black folks, some not so great black folks, some great white folks, and some not so great white folks that will help you. Right. But most of the time, people help people that want to be helped. Right. See, folks getting tired, and I'm one of those helping people that don't want to be helped. Right. And I'm gonna give you this last story because this is amazing. Mm-hmm. I met a young man yesterday. Yeah. He'd been in jail for 15 years. Mm. He did 15 years. I always told my friend, the judges, if you got to give me 1 day, don't worry about it, because I'm going to fall dead right there in the courtroom. But this guy did 15 years. He came out. He's got $10,000 in savings. He got a 750 score, and he got a plan. Now, he told us, he said that he was a drug dealer. He did this and did this. They couldn't get him, and finally they framed him for something. He say, yep, they framed me. They just didn't get me for what I did, but I had done enough stuff. So they don't need me sitting up here being bitter and try to get back. He's from Atlanta. He said he's not going back. And that, I sit there and told her, as he explained things, I said, that's one of the smartest young men I met. I told a friend of mine sitting there, and I told him, he's got a plan. He's out. He putting all that crap behind him, and he's moving on.
It's all about mindset.
Yeah.
We got to be able to move on.
Yeah.
And that's something, you know, that I'm very appreciative to have people like you. And I want him to come on. If you can send him my
Yeah, I'm
send him my way.
well, so I gave him my card.
Okay.
And I asked him to call me.
Okay.
See, now if he called me, he for real. You know, sometimes when you first get out of jail, you got to watch it.
Live on hope.
Yeah. Well, you know, I call them jailhouse conviction. You know, when you get out, you ain't gonna never do this, you ain't gonna never do that. But I listened to the guy and I sincerely believed it. But you still got to show me.
Very grateful for you to come and speak with us.
Well,
this won't be the only time we'll have you.
okay.
You'll be back next week.
Okay. Like I say, I'm on my way to a awards dinner with the Boy Scouts, and they're honoring some very impressive people, and they're a lot of people of color. Everybody don't have to be there, but they have. Dr. Hope has been one of the honorees. Some of the other people, but tonight they're honoring Mike Powers.
Okay.
Most folks don't know who Mike Powers.
Who?
Powers Properties, Power Products. He's been in business forever, and I've never had Mike I asked Mike for something that's worthwhile, and he's not doing it. They got several other outstanding Athenians there, and we have to get to know these people. But not only that, we got to let them know us.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I don't mean let them know that we're about business.
Yeah.
Because again, most people they don't mind helping people that want to help themselves.
So no matter
what your color.
Right.
We got to get off that.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much, Charlie. I appreciate your time.
Okay.
We're gonna get you back on here.